Okay, free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. So, very recently I asked you guys how do you prefer your tier list. Most of you say you want scrambled, some of you guys say you want sunny side up. So, I think for today's tier list, we are going to work with that concept. So, I'm going to combine both aspects together. So, I think primarily we want to focus more on how versatile espers are so that you have an idea of whether you want to get that esper or not. But also at the same time, I want to prioritize a lot into their effectiveness in some specific content. So, if they are really good in certain content, then I would put them a little bit higher than another esper who has maybe more versatility but just generally less useful overall, right? Or maybe more replaceable, yeah. So these are some things that I have to consider, and all tier lists are not optimal, all tier lists are not perfect. It really depends on your experience, it really depends on where you are in the game that would determine how accurate a specific tier list is. So it's not a one-size-fits-all underwear, whatever, right? So again, as always, I have to make this disclaimer. This is just entirely my own opinion. This is not official, it is not a representation of the game itself. It's not a representation of everyone. If you disagree, you disagree. If you agree, you agree. Yes, thank you very much. But if you have anything else you want to comment or you want to add on to something that I've said, feel free to use the comments below. Oh, and one more thing before I start. This entire list is based on R2 espers unless they are completely free. If they are completely free, they will just go up to R6. And if they are Shimmer Legendary espers who are not free, they will be stuck at R0. Okay, so just to keep the playing field a little bit more free-to-play friendly, so to speak. So we're going to start off with the lowest tier, followed by the C, B, A, S, and the EX++ tier, starting with Dona in the trash tier. So Dona, why he's trash is because he just lacks a lot of... He lacks use in general. Like, you will never ever consider using him as opposed to using something else who is going to perform a lot better. Like, for example, if you want to use a defensive esper, you're probably going to use Joser instead. You might use Changji, you're not going to use a Dona. And not even for PvP content, I don't think he's really that good either. Then next we have Ife. She just lacks a lot of use. It's not that she's bad. So there is not any content in this game right now, aside from the recent, Sunken Viper's Messenger, right? Whatever that is called. She is better in that content, but it's not as if she's really good. It's just, she's an easy option. That's about it. And R2 Yamato is really quite shit. Anyway, anything below R6 for Yamato is just extremely shit. And Liling right now, sub R6, I don't think he has a lot of users. I don't even think you have any reason at all to use him because you have just so many other better AoE DPS espers, right? Now, moving on to C tier, this entire tier is going to be espers who have very limited users, or they have more users, but they don't really shine anywhere in specifically, right? So Cecilia, she's more of a PvP based esper, and primarily just for point war and knockout, not so much for RTA, not so much for holo battles as well. So not a lot of users for her. But is that necessarily a bad thing? I don't think so. I think she's just supposed to shine in point war and knockout, and that's what she's doing right now. Next we have Luis, really not much use at R2, right? I mean, even at R6, he also kind of lacks a little bit of use in my opinion. Yuhime, very typical. Good speed lead, but overall not much in her kit that you would not use someone else, right? And we have the brand new esper here, and I honestly already forgot her name. She don't have a lot of users right now. Nama is just pretty much just a point war and knockout esper, right? Or maybe even just a point war esper, so not much. Tang Xuan, he is a very strong DPS esper, but he's currently only useful in, I don't know, Calamity Island. Apart from that, there is not a lot of reason for you to use a Tang Xuan, especially at R2. Now next, Genie, she is okay in many content, but it's not like she's a really good choice because there are much better options. Same goes for Javid as well. He has a lot of places where he is useful in, but like for example, he does more damage than Jiangman in general, right? But the thing is, you would certainly use Jiangman over Javid in most cases because Jiangman just carries a lot more in her kit. Now moving on to B tier, we are starting off with Intisa here. I think she has a little bit more use. So in terms of PvP, she is a Feng Lucy counter. In terms of PvE content, she is okay in Chronos. She is okay in some Celestial Anomaly stuff, right? So she's not the worst. Now the same goes for Ophelia. I think she's okay in holo battles. I think she is pretty decent in PvE, some PvE, not a lot of it, but at least she has a little bit more viability and versatility than the C tier esper, so yeah, there is that. Next for Elaine, she has recently risen the ranks a little bit in terms of PvE content. She's not going to be that good in PvP, but she definitely has more users, that's what I'm saying, right? In terms of like bossing content, at least she has really good buff block, really good buff strip, attack down, a lot of stuff in her kit that is excellent for bossing. And we have Sally at R2, which I am actually going to lower her a lot. I don't feel like Sally carries a lot because she just primarily focuses on protecting your team. And if you're not at R6, I don't think she's good at PvP at all. So in terms of PvE content, you kind of just want to kill the enemies as fast as possible. You don't really want to like survive. Like, that's not really so important, even for new players, right? There are much better options than just strictly surviving enemies. And then we have Everett here, who is really good in PvP, but I think he has absolutely no users anywhere. Same goes for Hyde as well. Like in terms of PvE content, like almost no use. Now next we have Biodina. She's gonna be more useful, especially in PvP, because we have espers like Genie, who is just a little bit more common. And in terms of PvE content, it's just the same few Sentinel Hunt stuff, right? So yeah, that's about it. Now A tier, the first two espers here are like super strong in PvP, but lack a lot of use in PvE. So that is Changji and that is also Jiang Jiuli. Lucas also falls in this area even though he carries a lot of good debuffs. And the reason for that is because while he has those good debuffs, those good controlling skills, his proc rates are actually quite bad. So he's not very consistent in my opinion. There are much better choices, even though I am rating him as an R6 over here. Next, for the Phantom Sisters, they have a really good speed lead. And for the most part, they are seeing more users in PvE content, but I still do feel like they are highly replaceable, especially since her second skill is not performing really well right now. Next up, we have Mateo, 100% crit rate, excellent kit. But in terms of his general use right now, there is not a lot of content that really pushes him for the time being. So apart from the Celestial Anomaly, apart from the Sentinel Hunt, and maybe apart from Fafnir, there is not a lot of room where he would be useful in, but he is excellent in all of these content. And then next we have Camille. I'm gonna rate her as an R6 here. She's absolutely really good in a lot of tower content. Like, she is gonna cleave stuff super fast. But in terms of PvP, I don't really think she is that good because she has to double hit, and that raises a lot of eyebrows because you're gonna get Avatar proc to death, or you're not even gonna shine very well with a Shen Pin. So if you're using her with a Shen Pin, your first hit, yes, it's gonna deal more damage because of the horse buff, but your second hit is gonna deal a lot less DPS because the enemies already have lowered HP. So there is that. So yeah, I don't really feel like Camille is gonna excel that well in PvP, and it's only just 0.1 anyway. Now moving on to the longest tier over here, we have the S tier. A lot of the espers fall in this category. So the first 4 espers here are like the cry bait, right? So you always hear people crying about not having R2 of these espers, and if you have R2 of these espers, you're completely pay to win. So yeah, take note of that. Then next we have Ashley, who is just dominate. I was actually considering putting her in the EX++ because the moment she's in Point War, she's immediately a threat. So there is no one in this world who is facing an Ashley comp and then they're like, okay, let's just go in head first. No, you are going to bring a counter to an Ashley comp because the moment you hit their teammates, they're going to gain AP, they're going to steal the turn, they're going to kill you, right? So in terms of PvP, Ashley is insane, or at least more for like Point War and Knockout. But in terms of PvE content, she has so many users. She has a plethora of users. She's definitely one of the best espers, not even at R2, but even at R0. Now next we have Ollie, and at R2 he has 2 turns of invincibility. This makes him like so good as a support, or maybe a support DPS in Chronos and in like Temporal Tower, for example. And he's definitely very viable in all kinds of PvP, especially with the speed lead. And Leora, also a PvP queen with some users in PvE, so kind of similar in Ollie in that regard, right? In terms of like their general usefulness. Now Abigail, enough said. Tricky, also enough said. These 2 espers, they are like R0 really strong. And then we have Genia, who is also pretty good at R2. So her passive increases her AP boost that she receives by 50%, which is a 30% AP push whenever any one of your allies get debuffed. So her usefulness already starts at R2 and not at R6. And then we have Ahmed, who gives his allies extra speed whenever he heals them. Very, very powerful. And of course, he's also one of the best healers in this game right now. Moving on, we have Sienna with the 3-turn buffs, which is always nice to have. She's just widely used in a lot of PvE content. She's also widely used in PvP as well. Even down to holo battles where you're like 3v3. I think she also shines a lot in that regard. And then Elliot, major change to his skill kit. And even his Rezo 2 is also really good right now. So Sharp Stratagem, his second skill, each hit extends all ability cooldowns on the target by 1 turn. This is insane. So he has a lot of cooldown control in his entire kit. And then next we have Raven with the AoE DPS. So right now I think she's probably one of the better AoE DPSs, especially since she cannot be Avatar procced on her second skill, which is a passive. So that is nice. So that allows her more room for viability in PvP. But for the most part, that extra hit might also push enemies AP, because if they have an Ashley, then yeah, that's kind of like a counter to Raven comps. But for the most part, she's also very viable in PvE content, like the tower content, for example, because she's just really good at sweeping stuff. And then Tever, the PvP menace right now. He one-shots almost anything. But I think he only truly shines at R2 and above, where he gains the 100% crit rate, because right now at R0, he's not going to kill Everett at all. So if you fail to crit an Everett, that's it. He's going to counter-attack with a miss rate up, and yeah, your Tever is pretty much dead. And then finally, for the last Esper in our S tier is Unas. I am actually going to lower him from the top tier down to the second highest tier. Reason being, I feel like he's the fastest AP pusher in the game, which is really good for PvP, but he is not a very good AP pusher because of Ashley. So because you see Ashley in a lot of defensive comps, his third skill, which pushes his team's AP, is actually going to be detrimental in some cases because you are going to push the enemy's team who has an Ashley, right? Which is really bad. Because of the way AP mechanics work right now, the enemy's team is just going to steal the turn and they are going to counter-attack afterwards. So yeah, Una's lacking a little bit in PvP, but in terms of PvE content, he's obviously still really good. He is good in many different content. Deathlock Lens, for example, Celestial Anomaly, really good. Now finally, we have the EX++ tier, and the reason why this is not double S is EX++ is because they really stand out a lot. So we're going to start off with the 2 Shimmer Legendary Espers who everyone is mouthing about. We have Nusi, we have Shenpin, enough said. We also have Gaius because he's just extremely good in both PvP and PvE content. He is excellent everywhere. And now, a brand new meta-shifting Esper, Tia, she is going to be EX++, for sure 100%. She's so good in all PvE content. She's so good in all PvP content as well. Excellent stuff. Amazing kit. AP swapping is completely broken. And I mean, on top of that, she also has speed and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, amazing kit. Then we have Clara and Gabrielle. These 2 Espers are excellent at, okay, I'll say it. R2, yes, sure. Clara, definitely. 2 turns of immunity, very nice. Same for Gabrielle. I mean, Gabrielle gets her 3 turns of immunity at R6. But anyway, the reason why these 2 Espers are here is Clara is just really good in all PvE content. She is also very needed for PvP cleaving because she gives your team 2 turns of immunity, which means that enemies' avatar procs, they are most likely not going to stun you, they're most likely not going to defense break you, they're most likely not going to like land any kind of debuff on you. And at the same time, this negates frost sets as well. So if you're thinking of cleaving and frost sets are a big issue to you, consider using Clara. She is a really good option. Now, as for Gabrielle, she is just the Esper that you go to if you need immunity, right? If you need to tank stuff for some reason, like in Temporal Tower, or maybe you can double her as a DPS at the same time, right? But if you need a little bit more support, she has immunity and defense buff, and she has defense break and attack debuff at the same time. It's like insane. She has so much gem pack into her kit. Really good for PvP, really good for PvE, enough said. So yeah, that's it for this tier list. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you agree or disagree with anything here? If you do, let me know as well so that I can reevaluate my list. And you know what, maybe there are room for changes, right? But yeah, anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now that's it, has been very free to play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.